Typically in the past, Microsoft's press conferences have always had the hardest time impressing me or making me care about the stuff they're talking about, because a lot of times the games they show aren't really things that I'm interested in, so I have a hard time caring about their press conference. That being said, this year, their press conference was really good. It was really, really good. I was actually kind of impressed at how well they did. Did they show things I don't care about? Yes, absolutely, but they showcased it in a way that made me kind of care about it a little bit, and I'll let you know what I mean as I kind of recap through the things. So they started off by just confirming the rumors that were already out there, and yes, there is an Xbox One Slim. It is significantly smaller. It's all white. It kind of looks like a PS4, let's be honest. It has a price point, not a cheaper price point, but it's going to be $300 coming out in August. So there's like, yep, right, it's out there. Xbox One Slim. Has to happen with just really every console generation. There has to be a different iteration of it. Save the Wii U. Nintendo didn't do that with the Wii U because, frankly, they gave up on it. And that's fine. So yeah, Xbox One Slim is coming. Great. If you don't have an Xbox One yet, might as well get the smaller, sleeker one, as they put it. Anyway, so the big thing that they announced right away, and it was something that they were pushing throughout their entire conference, was this new Xbox Play Anywhere initiative, which basically says any game you get on Xbox One, you can also play on your Windows 10 PC. And that's awesome. That's really, really cool, especially since they all have cross-platform stuff, because I really didn't buy a whole lot of Xbox One games this year because I've been primarily a PC player and I'd rather play it on just PC. But if my friends have Xbox One, now there's a way to play with them. They did say if you get the game digitally, you can play it on both rather than the physical copies, which sucks because I'm still a collector and I still want the physical actual CD copies of the game for an Xbox One just so I can have them up on my shelf. But I do get a lot of my PC games, almost all of them actually, digitally, so still kind of cool. And this is a big deal. This is a cool factor, and I'm actually really, really into this, and I thought this is a really cool idea from them because, again, even if it's games I don't care about, if my friends are playing it on a different platform, there's still a way to play with them. So the first one they showed off for this was Gears of War 4. And this they had actual gameplay presentation of Gears of War 4. One person was playing on Xbox One, another person was playing on PC. What was frustrating during this presentation that they didn't switch over to the PC footage at all, or the PC stream. My only guess is because maybe it had a higher frame rate or it looked nicer and they didn't want to make the Xbox One version look bad or something. I don't know. I would have liked it if they had some way to show both streams, but whatever. So the Gears of War 4 I actually was kind of interested in when they first showed it off, because frankly it looks like they're going back to what was kind of in Gears of War 1. In that Gears of War 1 had a lot more Resident Evil 4 spoopy type of stuff going on in it. Remember the Krill? Remember the Krill in the original game? They never showed up again. Like that kind of stuff. Kind of horror-ish. And that's what I thought was going on with Gears of War 4, what they had shown so far. And they still kind of had it going on in this one with in terms of the environment, and a storm was ripping through and was blowing things all around, and it was pretty intense stuff. But the actual gameplay was still very much Gears of War. They're going behind cover, they're shooting down dudes. They had a turret that they had to shoot. Some of the new weapons looked cool, like the dude picked up basically a buzzsaw thrower, or the Ripper from Dead Space, and he was just ricocheting buzzsaws all around. That was actually kind of cool. I did notice within the game that all the characters were talking at each other. They're like, oh great, now what? Try that over there. And it was kind of like, it was really, really wooden and stilted between each character. They clearly recorded their lines in separate sound booths, so it didn't quite sound natural or bantery or whatever. It sounded like two E3 presenters on doing an actual presentation and trying to make it sound natural. It doesn't happen. But I guess at least they're trying to make this Gears of War squad or whatever a little more friendly with each other, or bantery, whatever. See, I actually did play a lot of the Gears of War games. I played one about halfway through. I played all of Gears of War 2, and then some of Gears of War 3 before I realized I didn't care about Gears of War at all anymore. So I didn't play the prequel one. I didn't bother with that or the remasters. But I was, again, kind of intrigued by Gears of War 4, mostly because I thought it was going to go back to, or do a completely different take where it's a little more horror-based and more about the characters. And I think it might still be about that, but the presentation didn't really sell me on it. It still just looked like the same Gears of War gameplay, which if you like Gears, there you go. But then they had a stinger at the end where they like walking through a room and Dom was still alive? I'm pretty sure that was Dom, right? Like he was older, but that was Dom, which is weird because last I saw, he drove a truck into another thing and then the thing exploded. But it's fine because he's okay. Dom's still alive, you guys. Whatever. Plot contrivances, whatever they need. Either way, it still looked like Gears of War, but again, the fact that you can play it on both Windows 10 and Xbox One and with each other is really cool. They then went on to Killer Instinct and basically said, we got a new Killer Instinct character coming. It's General Ram from Gears of War. And I wrote this down in my notes, and that Microsoft is basically treating Killer Instinct like their Smash Brothers game. And I'm not saying Killer Instinct is going to be all characters from all different games of all different genres or whatever. I meant that in the way that Microsoft is using Killer Instinct to promote their other games. Because Nintendo sure frickin' did that. I mean, Bayonetta was put in there, Corrin from Fire Emblem was put in there for Fire Emblem Awakening. They're using it to promote their other games, which is kind of smart. So they put General Ram in there to help promote the new Gears of War. That's fine. I'm not snarking on it or saying that's a bad idea or whatever. It's just an observation. I haven't really played the whole new Killer Instinct a whole lot, so I couldn't tell you anything else about it. But they basically said there's another character coming for it, and they're still supporting it. And again, Xbox One and Windows 10. Right after that, they went on to Forza Horizon 3. I am not a Forza player, so I couldn't tell you anything about it other than what I saw. It looked more like ATV Off-Road Fury to me, just because they had like ATVs and monster trucks. But this was another situation where they showed Xbox One players and PC players playing with each other. And I say that, but all their gameplay presentations were fake as fuck. Like, nothing that they were showing was actual live presentation, but they're still at least showing gameplay. Live presentations in the past have always caused problems, so I understand why they didn't do that, but they at least gave you an idea of what they were shooting for. So it looked pretty. There were cars. They were in Australia. They made sure you knew that. I don't know. Again, that's one of those games that really wasn't for me, but they did present it really well. Right after that, they touched back up on Recore. This was a game that was announced last year, and everyone was kind of wondering what this is about. This is that the kind of they didn't really show anything about the gameplay last year. It was just a thing that existed, and now they showed some gameplay, and it actually looks kind of neat. You know what it reminded me of? Jak and Daxter, like the Jak kind of style games, like kind of platformy, gun shooty. I don't know about collectathon, but that kind of third-person action-adventure game. They showed off all these different characters that's on your team or you can play as. They showed some really cool platforming stuff where she, there's like a floating wall and she like grappled hook to a little spider bot walking across it, and that allowed her to wall run across this wall or whatever and get to new areas. Again, I actually thought it looked kind of cool. It was very, very brief, and I wish they could have gone more in depth, but you know, they reiterated that Recore is still a thing, and it looked pretty sweet. Now, right after that, they went into Final Fantasy 15, which we've seen plenty of Final Fantasy 15 demos and gameplay presentations before, but the big deal with this one is that this is the first time they showed the game being played on Xbox One. Now, I'm reserving a lot of judgment on Final Fantasy 15. I personally have not played any of the demos for 15. I haven't even looked at any of the demos for 15 because when the game comes out, I want to go into it as raw as possible. And I'm still skeptically optimistic about it. Man, I'm getting some really bad deja vu because this is exactly how I felt for Final Fantasy 13. Like, I went in there so skeptical, but as I got closer to release, I was like, yeah, you know what? Maybe it will be good. This will be good. And then 13 sucked dick, and they made 2 more games that also sucked dick. Well, maybe I didn't play the third one. Anyway. So with 15, I'm still just kind of like, I don't know. It sure looks pretty. The fight off against Titan had an awesome sense of scale, like very God of War-ish as they're fighting off against each other. The gameplay is Kingdom Hearts. Let's not try to deny that. But again, I I'm trying to reserve all my criticisms there because I just want to go into 15 as raw as possible. I will notice that the music was awesome during all that presentation, all that fight. So that was probably the biggest takeaway I had from there, is that the music was still really, really cool. Anyway, moving on, they announced some DLC for The Division. And it's not exclusive, but it's going to be a timed exclusive thing, and Xbox One is getting a new underground update first, where it's randomized missions and more guns or whatever. Is anyone still playing Division? Because I tried it when it came out, and it was so aggressively average that I immediately lost interest in it. So I don't know, is anyone still playing The Division, or would this make people go back to play The Division? I don't know, but it's another thing that Xbox has, at least a timed exclusive on new DLC for that game. They then talked about Battlefield 1, and then showed the same trailer that we had already seen 2 times before from DICE. But they did say Xbox One will have, like, what was it, 7 or 8 days early access through EA Access on Xbox One. Basically saying Xbox One owners can get Battlefield 1 slightly earlier, which isn't too big of a deal, but again, it was another thing that Xbox One had. And then again, the same trailer was kind of lame and dull. They couldn't even show like actual Xbox gameplay or something for them, no matter how brief it was. And that seemed more like EA getting lazy on their part. Whatever. They then talked about some updates coming to Xbox Live, which were you can now choose your default language to find people who speak your same language to play with them. Cortana is coming to Xbox Live, which, whatever. You can now choose your own background music when you're playing whatever games. That's actually probably pretty cool for some people. I personally don't play other music while I'm playing games, but I know a lot of other people do. That's cool. They also talked about more features coming, I think it was later this fall. One was clubs, which are basically social groups for different games, which they already have on, I believe PS4 has that, don't they? I don't use it at all. I'm pretty sure PS4 has that, or at least Steam or whatever. It was something that other people already had, and now it's coming to Xbox Live. But they also announced a new looking for group feature, which is hilarious. Because it was basically like, oh, I need to, I'm looking for these kind of skill players to play The Division, or I'm looking for people to help me get this achievement or whatever. Which is cool to help you find people to play before you go into a match, rather than just trying to find randies in there. And it's cool. It would be cool. I don't know if this is the case or not, but I'm hoping this is going to be it, where you can set your looking for group and just have that going while you play or do something else. That would be really, really cool. Like, you can slowly build your group for your Division group while you're playing Forza or what have you. What made me chuckle about it is that they kind of showed the different tags for the looking for group examples. So it said like high skilled players only, or casual fun, but the one that stood out to me was swearing is okay. That made me chuckle, that's all. And then they also announced Arena Xbox Live stuff for competition, which sounded a lot like EA's online competitive play kind of thing, where this is another way to set up Xbox Live owners with different tournaments or leagues or whatever. They didn't really go into it a whole lot, but it's a thing they're doing and it's coming. Anyway, this is probably the weakest part of the conference to me and to everyone, and that's when they talked about Minecraft, which I had to be reminded that Microsoft owns Minecraft. I forgot that was a thing, but it is. But they talked about how Minecraft is basically getting dedicated servers known as Minecraft Realms, and what's important about these is that anyone can play on these servers from any platform. And they didn't really specify it, but the vague language that they were saying and how it's coming to all platforms and all devices basically made it sound like people on PC can play with Xbox One, can play with tablet, can play with Wii U. That's how I interpreted it. I think that's going to be the case. Not 100% sure because they didn't elaborate, but based on the language they were saying, that's what it was. Not on Play Minecraft anymore, so I don't give a crap. I mean, I imagine most people here don't really play Minecraft a whole lot. But for a lot of the younger kids who love that shit and are still playing it and now have a way to better play with their friends if they don't have the same console, good for them. And they also said texture packs are coming for console Minecraft. Again, alright, good for them. They also had John Carmack show up, and he was playing the Oculus Rift version, which I feel like the only way I'd be able to play Minecraft again if I was using a VR thing. But even then, it'd be super novel. Yeah, that was just a weak part of the conference for me, because it was another one of those moments where they had two presenters playing together, doing some very forced, very awkward banter against each other, like where she's like, "Here, take this diamond. Oh, you just did that for the achievement." That was like the one really slow part. I mean, Minecraft is still a huge property, and they still have to talk about it, but jeez. All right. This next part is actually kind of weak for me too. So they started talking about indie games, and right away the screen goes black. It says, "From the creators of Limbo," and people are like, "Oh, all right, yeah, Limbo was cool." And then it just shows like black and white dudes in office wear working in an office or maybe a lab or something. And here's another shot of them standing around and talking to each other in some kind of lab or something. And then there's the title screen for Inside Dark. And that was it. Didn't show anything in the gameplay or what the game's about, other than there are dudes in an office. And it was so stupid that another guy came out who's all about the indie games for Xbox One and basically said, "I played the Limbo team's new game and it's amazing, I swear." And it's like, alright dude, I'll take your word for it because you sure didn't show us. The game is coming out soon. I believe it was the end of this month. But they really did not build the hype for it at all. I think they were trying to bank on the fact that it was coming from the Limbo guys a little too much. Would have liked to see the actual game. They then go into a sizzle reel of all the indie games that were coming, and there are a lot of really cool ones coming for Xbox One that were in that sizzle reel. Cuphead was shown. Cuphead still looks really freaking cool. Slime Rancher was in there. What else did they show? Outlast 2. Stardew Valley was shown. I knew that they had console versions coming, but it was nice to see that game kind of get some of the recognition, because again, I love Stardew Valley. They also showed Yooka-Laylee, The Culling, Bloodstain, Koji Igarashi's new Metroidvania game. Just a small snippet of that was cool. They also said that how Ark Survival Evolved is another thing that's going to be on the Xbox Play Anywhere. So if you get on Xbox One or Windows 10, you can then have it for either console and switch between it. So one game save transfers to the other, your team is transferred to each other. Again, cool. They then actually had some gameplay of a new indie game, and I wish they would have done this for the Limbo game earlier, but it was called We Happy Few. It's a really, really cool premise just from what I saw. It was a first-person game where a guy is working on a newspaper thing, and basically the whole game is about happiness and how people are all forced to be happy. Everyone is wearing masks, like white mime masks that kind of give them a fake smile so they all look happy. And they all have to take these little pills that they called joy. Like, you have to take your joy pills and stay happy. And I noticed that anytime he saw something that triggered a repressed memory of something bad, the color of the game suddenly started washing away. And he was just like, started freaking out and stressing out a little bit. And then he gave the choice in the game to either take your joy pill or not, and he chose not to. So then they had to go to like some birthday party, and the dude is like looking around, and he still sees like bad things happening. He looks into a window and sees one dude murder another dude, and oh no, that's not happy. And then they finally get to the kid's birthday party, and there's a piñata on the table, and all the kids are hitting it with their bats to get the candy. It was making like weird squishy noises. And the happy mask lady is like, "Oh, this is so fun. Here's your stick. Hit the piñata and get all the candy. It'll be a good time." So you're like, all right. And you hit right trigger, and you attack the piñata, and a bunch of blood comes out, and there's blood all over your hand, and you look back at the piñata, and it's not a piñata, it's actually a dead rat, like completely bludgeoned in, and the woman and all the kids are eating up the candy of this dead rat, so whatever innards came out. The dude's just like, "Oh god, what happened?" And then they all realize that he hasn't been taking his joy, and they're like, "Guards, get him!" And then they ran away. So it was a cool premise for a game with a really cool concept. Is that a plane? totally is. It was a really cool concept for a game that showed there was going to be first-person combat and kind of running away and figuring out the mystery of all this. So this was a better demonstration reel for a new game that actually got me interested in it, and they didn't do that for the other one, and I wish they would have. But either way, cool presentation on this one. Then had the CG Projekt Red guys come out and officially announce a standalone version of Gwent. If you don't know what Gwent is, play Witcher 3. There's an in-game card game called Gwent in there, and it's awesome. Like, it was one of the coolest parts of Witcher 3, and it was extremely addicting, and more people played the card game of Witcher 3 than actual Witcher 3. I played a little bit of Gwent and loved it, and then chose not to play it anymore because I knew if I kept up on it, I wouldn't be playing any of the actual Witcher 3. But now there's a standalone version coming with multiplayer, with redone art, and a little different HUD and slightly redone mechanics. It looks awesome. I'm sure it's going to be on all the consoles, but they are doing a beta first on PC and Xbox One. They then showed some gameplay of Tekken 7. And the big thing with Tekken 7, which is something they've already shown and announced before, is that Akuma from Street Fighter is in Tekken 7. So they had some gameplay of Akuma versus Heihachi. It was actual gameplay stuff, but it was actually story mode stuff. Now, I'm one of those weird guys who actually likes the story mode in fighting games. I know, but that's like always the weird main draw for me. So see this in action is actually pretty cool, and how seamless it was going from cutscene with a few QuickTime events into the actual one-on-one fighting, and then back again. It was really cool to see. All it made me think of was, hey, remember when they announced Tekken Cross Street Fighter? Still waiting on that to happen. I don't think it's going to. And I feel like Akuma is kind of their consolation for that game never happening. But whatever. And they showed the gameplay of it on Xbox One. It's coming out early next year. And it looked neat. They then had a CG trailer for Dead Rising 4. And I love Dead Rising, and I especially love Frank West. To see that Frank West is back is really, really cool. And it's still... it looks more lighthearted and jolly than Dead Rising 3 was, because I feel like Dead Rising 3 tried a little too hard to be serious, and at least in their marketing. This one had Frank with his cell phone taking selfies and looking goofy. He's like in armor suits and like having a giant hammer. He had a contraption like a air blower that was shooting like grenades or something. It looked awesome. I didn't notice that he was back at Willamette Mall from the original game, but he was also in the surrounding areas of the town on the outside. So it could be cool if it had all of the mall plus the outside area, and that's a lot of space. That was another one of those things where it's Xbox One and Windows 10 with cross-platform play. Transfer your saves. I'm hoping co-op again, and play with each other. Love Dead Rising. Wish it had more raw gameplay of it, but I had a pretty good idea of how Dead Rising played at this point, so I understand why they didn't. They had a lady come out for a little bit who basically says, we publish a lot of games. To be said, okay. But then she introduced Scalebound. Now, Scalebound was a game they showed off last year, which was intriguing, but didn't really show anything about it that would really sell you on it. And they showed some raw gameplay this year. And it's Monster Hunter. But you have a monster on your side. So it's 4-player co-op, which is awesome. Did not expect that at all. And they showed all 4 players, and they even had like the Monster Hunter weapons. There was a sword and shield, there's a lance guy, there's a great sword guy. So it was very much Monster Hunter inspired, but everyone had like their own dragon or own monster that they could use in battle. So they were fighting this giant enemy crab thing, and they had to like jump on the backs of their dragons and fly around and like spit at it with their breath weapon or drop bombs or whatever, or shoot it with the bow. I also noticed that it was basically Monster Hunter with the attitude of Devil May Cry, because the main character dude was all like, "Oh yeah, you think that was good? Got any more coming?" He had a little bit of Dante attitude to him, but it still looked really, really cool. I was into it. I would want to check that one out. Very cool. And then again, another Xbox One and Windows 10, I believe. Might be wrong about that, but I believe. And then they talked about the Rare game that they showed last year. The dried, musty husk of Rare shambled out on stage and was like, remember our pirate game? Oh, here's some gameplay of it. And I actually really liked how they showed this gameplay of it, because they basically brought in quote-unquote real players. It was like 12 of them or something like that. They had 3 4-man teams all just playing this pirate game. They had no instructions, they just told them to play. And they basically created their own Let's Play of it, where they recorded each player and had like a little screen in the corner of their faces as they're playing. They weren't actual Let's Players or trying to Let's Play, but that's basically how it was presented. Were they obnoxious and terrible? Yes. But I felt like the gameplay and reactions that they were showing were genuine. And that I really appreciated, because that gave me a better sense of the game than anything else. Like, you could tell they were messing around. They were making jokes that clearly weren't scripted or forced. And it just gave a really good idea of what the pirate gameplay is like. They were on an island, they get on the ship, they were raising anchors and lowering the sails, or communicating with each other so they could actually navigate. Then another pirate ship showed up, they got into a fight, and they had to go down below and repair the hull and stuff, and it was really, really cool. One team sank and died, other teams were successful. So it was a good way of presenting it, even if the actual Let's Players, for lack of a better term, weren't like the most intriguing or whatever. But again, I felt like it was very genuine, and I appreciated that. They didn't have had an announcement CG trailer for State of Decay 2. State of Decay 1 was really, really cool, so a second one. Great. It seemed like, just based off the trailer, they're going to focus more on the characterization of the characters, like a little more emotion or backstory or something there. Like, it showed one of them holding a dead loved one or something and looking sad over it, but no actual gameplay there. But if it's anything like State of Decay 1, you have a general idea, and there's another one coming. They then went to a really cool CG trailer for Halo Wars 2. Now, I don't really care about Halo, and Halo Wars even less, but that's another game that's coming. I know people love Halo. They do have a open beta for Halo Wars 2 happening right now throughout all week, so it's in their beta. You can download on your Xbox One and play right away. And again, this is another one of those games that is also compatible on Windows 10 and people can play with each other. Awesome! That's great. That's a lot of really cool stuff that they're doing. And then we got towards the end of the conference. Phil Spencer came out and spat buzzwords for like a good 5 minutes. Oh, I missed some stuff. Let me go back. So they also announced, showed that there's a new Xbox One controller. And what's new about it is it has like little rubber grips on the back. But more importantly, you can basically custom order it to have it be whatever color you want. Like, they showed all kinds of different colors for the buttons, different grips for the controller sticks, whatever. I'd imagine online only custom order, and then you can put your little Xbox Live gamer tag at the bottom. That's neat. It kind of seems like a smarter way of doing different controller colors instead of just releasing limited ones and hope people are happy with it. So, good. Anyway, at the end, Phil Spencer comes out and he's all buzzwords, and console ecosystem and blah, blah, blah. But their last thing that they showed was Project Scorpio. And Project Scorpio is a new console, and I say that with great hesitation because I don't have a full answer for you. What it is, I can tell you for sure, is that it has the best pixels you've ever seen. It has all kinds of teraflops. It'll have 4K resolution. Xbox One Slim also supports 4K resolution, but this new one is going to be all about it with more graphical power. The most powerful console will be on the market when this releases. It's going to have VR capabilities when Project Scorpio comes out, and it's a new part of the Xbox One family, or Xbox whatever. But man, that was confusing for a couple of reasons. I'm not entirely sure if it's an all-new console or if it's just a third pillar to Xbox One. Now, what they did say is that all of your current Xbox One accessories and all of your current Xbox One games will also work on the Scorpio, because they said, quote, "No one gets left behind." Okay, good. Good backwards compatibility with controllers. I feel like they're learning from Nintendo with that, with the Wii U. But again, I'm wasn't entirely sold on what exactly it is. I think it is a new console. An Xbox 2 or 720, if you will. Just judging it based solely on how much they're touting up, how much more power it has now. It's going to be the most powerful console. Like they were really, really talking about that a lot. So that makes me feel like it's going to be an all-new console. But it also has compatibility with Xbox One games and controllers, and maybe even online play. But I'm not certain on that. Other people feel it's just a third Xbox One that's more powerful and also has VR. And if that's the case, why should I care about an Xbox One Slim? So there's a lot of confusion here, and this kind of brings the whole conference down for me just because it wasn't clear enough. And if it's a new console, like, I have concerns all around basically no matter what it is. If it's a third Xbox One, it's exactly that, a third Xbox One that's confusing, that makes people not care about the Xbox One S, when they could just wait for the Project Scorpio, which is already coming out in holiday 2017. Now, if it's all new console, which I would imagine it is, that's also concerning to me because to me, what that basically confirms was my suspicions was that this console generation generally sucked. It didn't last a whole long. There wasn't a whole lot of super mind-blowing things that were original. They still had some really good games, yes, but nothing that will be as historic as some other ones. I mean, to give an example of what I mean, Xbox 360 lasted 8 years. That thing came out in 2005, and that was going until 2013. That's damn impressive. And now they're already announcing, supposedly, a new Xbox console. Only 4 years later, they basically Nintendo did. And again, that's generally concerning to me because again, I don't know. Without like concrete answers or evidence, I don't know for sure. Again, this is all conjecture right now, basically. But if that's the case, if this is a new console, they're giving up on this generation already, which I guess I wouldn't blame them for because this generation wasn't great compared to previous ones. I bought far fewer games for consoles this year than I did any console generation previously. I bought so much more stuff on PC because there wasn't anything just on console comparatively that I really had to own, or just wasn't worth playing on PC instead, you know? And that's how I kind of feel about it. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully they clear things up by the time this video goes up or shortly thereafter or whatever. Now, at the end of the day, the Microsoft press conference was really, really good. Even if there was things you don't care about in there, and there was. I didn't care about Forza at all. I didn't care about Minecraft at all. I was only mildly interested in stuff like Gears of War, but they did have a bunch of cool things that they did show, like Scalebound was really cool. That We Happy Few indie game looked really, really cool. They still had a lot of really good stuff in there, and more importantly, anything that a lot of the exclusive stuff that they showed was still cross-compatible on Windows 10. Get the digital version on Windows 10, then transfer your game save to Xbox One, or vice versa, or whatever. That is really cool, and that's a really cool idea, and they really sold it. More importantly, they really were just focusing on games this year. There wasn't any Microsoft Surface or Glass bullshit or whatever it was. They weren't trying to tout any of that. They weren't showing off new VR technology. They were just talking about just the games, and they showed a lot of gameplay for the games. And the only hardware stuff they showed was confirming Xbox One Slim, got that out of the way, and then Scorpio stuff at the end, which was confusing. The things that bring it down for me was the confusing Scorpio part, because that was their bombshell that they really wanted to end on. Like, we have a new console coming, and it just brought more confusion than anything else. But overall, it was a really good conference, and I was more impressed than anything else. Being on the more reserved side with the grading, I'll give them a B+. Probably the best they've done in several years. some of the confusion was what kept it away from being an A or an A minus, but it was still a really good conference, and they did a really good job. So well done, Microsoft. But please, please, what the hell is the Scorpio? What is it? I have to know. I am just so very confused.